afternoon, everyone. And I'm Eve Lin, and I'm here to share a discourse on the creative invention process behind soft robotics, focusing on a subjective, effective, and visceral engagement with computational matters. So why does soft matter is the title of my PhD, exploring the design space of soft robotic materials and programmable machines. My research employs a creative approach towards the design of soft robotics to question the emerging role of the designer in soft robotics, specifically designers who have an embodied and effective relationship with material. Soft robotics is a new research field and aims at designing flexible robots able to adapt more easily to us as humans. These robots are inspired by nature, such as marine organisms, and can be 3D printed because they are squishy and flexible. They're inherently suited to textiles and fashion. So a quick background slide. From a formation in theatre design at St. Martin's, I developed the wearable technology company Rainbow Winters, which merges technology with fashion and textiles materials using interactive textiles which respond to external influences such as light, sound, speed, and moisture. An early piece was a thunderstorm dress, which turned the wearer into a living thunderstorm, lighting up in response to sound. Rather than showcasing an engineering principle, the aim was to develop a sensory experience through technology. The visceral impact of the dress in pop culture had to do with experience rather than usability. Another one of my pieces which changed colour in response to sunlight and water. So why does soft matter? I have 4 themes here: the embodied imagination, an embodied approach through the practitioner's subjectivity, thinking through the body and not just through the mind, the effective and visceral engagement with material. Ephemeral matter, emerging material interfaces and human-computer interaction developed through the material imagination. Bricolage practice, using a design STEM model, the designer absorbs technology into their practice toolkit, acting as a bricoleur, enabling holistic innovation. And soft robotic material, the opportunities for emerging inventions in soft robotic materials through an embodied, experiential, effective, and visceral approach. And I've identified the role within programmable materials as the hacker, the bricoleur, and the alchemist, expanding the discipline of textiles beyond its traditional classifications. Also, material-led human-computer interaction, the creation of novel interfaces, and the artifact, soft robotic materials. And finally, a prototype toolbox for textile designers, the identification, creation of the role of embodied making in relation to the imagination. So, body real estate is the term often heard in the wearable tech field. At the Consumer Electronics Show, there is a domination of smart watches, bands, and headgear, all set up to quantify, measure, and calculate the human body. The consumer electronics industry seems to advocate the objectification of the human body. Therefore, many of my early collaborations with engineers were disembodied, and this failed to acknowledge the complexity of being in the world. Taking the above into account, I attended to my own personal experience as a wearable tech designer. The embodiment theories of philosopher Merleau-Ponty provide an alternative to Descartes' dualism of a radical separation of body and mind. The vigorous engagement with the lived body throughout the design process. This emphasis on the subjective, embodied, and effective design experience is crucial in developing a methodology which is unique to those who have a complex and nuanced relationship with material. And commercial research and development are based on the binary character of the consumer electronics industry. And my first-person experience is foregrounded in an autoethnographic approach as a contextual groundwork. Autoethnography is a type of qualitative research which uses self-reflection, and it's a method of self-reflective inquiry which can enable subtle insights of tacit knowledge. So I use autoethnography, reflective practice, and sensory ethnography. So the material imagination, tactile and visual. Bachelard's concept of the material imagination addresses the relationship between human experience and conceptual thinking, and materiality of imagining. Engaging in a hands-on way with these emerging materials, the technology becomes an imaginative extension of the practitioner's hands. Some of my early studies were into water as a material, water structures transforming and disappearing into mists and simmers. Water became an expressive material and with organic associations. And the temporality of material In the early stages of research, macrophotography and short films were used as a device to capture material qualities, such as water's temporal qualities, moving, transforming, and transitionary. So now I come to soft robotic materials, a new research field, aiming at designing flexible robots, able to adapt more easily to us as humans. These robots are inspired by nature, such as marine organisms, and can be 3D printed. And robotic fabrics are bio-inspired artificial muscles, and within the textiles area, they're very much underexplored, inspired by cuttlefish and lizard tongues. There are various arrays of soft robotic materials, but these are all apparent in scientific laboratories, such as shape memory polymers, pneumatic networks, electroactive polymers, dielectric elastomer actuators. These are all kinetic type of materials which can change colour, shape, and form. And actually, they share many qualities similar to themes of textile design, such as seaming, mould making, casting, couching, which actually could be embedded within a tacit knowledge of the textile designer. So I use bricolage practice, a form of learning through doing, foregrounded by the DIY maker culture, thinking through physical prototyping and a bodily engagement with materials, using the reflective practitioner, the stem to steam movement, Design STEM by Anne Toomey, and The Craftsman by Richard Sennett. This starts off with engaging with the computational materials at their very start, rather than later on. It's a deconstruction and a reverse engineering process. It's about looking at a scientific paper, reverse engineering this process, and reconstructing it in a designerly lens. So part of the reconstruction after deconstruction is a form of material cooking, an interrogation of material. Material experiments and new materials are a development process as a way of generating new knowledge, and sensory participation is a reflexive and experiential process. These are some forms of the interrogation of silicon as a material. Using off-the-shelf equipment, designers can start to use a soft robotic toolkit as a form of pneumatic display. Interactive skins, developing sound responsive and proximity responsive skin. And here's a video. Oh, okay, great. Sorry, then do I press? Yeah. Brilliant. Yay. Okay, so after deconstructing the soft robotic materials experiments, I started to use programmable fluidics, the translocation of fluids through soft materials such as inks and composites embedded with moss fibers. This deconstruction of a scientific paper, which is 3D printed scaffold removal, enabled me to develop a type of stretchable microfluidic. within this process, I've been developing a hydraulic programmable system, which develops an embodied engagement with materials, which offer the possibility to utilize our tactile relationship with the imagination, both felt and imagined. And I ask, how can embodied making inspire new speculative materialities? So within these microfluidic flexible skins, could they be developed into garments which offer a new type of material interaction, playful and haptic interactive qualities? Can we imagine more effective terms to express sensorial and effective material interactions, such as seeping, oozing, or soaking, a crying dress, for example? And I'd just like to share with you some of the literature that has really been inspiring along this research journey: The Reflective Practitioner, Emotional Design, Material Experience, A Tacit Dimension, Water and Dreams by Bachelard, and finally The Craftsman. And if you would like to find out more information about my work, I have a couple of papers, Wearable Rhythms and Building a Soft Machine, at the Human Computer Interaction Conference. Thank you.